Hey Landon, thanks for taking some time for talking to my current class and maybe some potential students. Um, so I've been doing these interviews and I'm really excited to ask you some questions because you were if not my first class, one of my first classes as a teacher. You were in my first class, and so I started here in 2006. So when did you come to Rankin?
Yep, so I graduated high school in May 2006 and started that fall at Ranken, August or September or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So the timeline's exactly that you would have been literally my first class. So you graduated in 2008, right, with an associate's degree from Rankin. Back
Yes,
then it was called Internet and Web-Based Technology, right?
correct. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the stuff that you studied?
Basically, I remember covering Java, ASP, um, some database stuff,
Yeah,
basic database stuff, how to navigate that.
yeah.
And then I think one of our semesters, like we had the great opportunity for the whole class to do an internship at a company called Network Solutions. So that kind of replaced classwork, and we
Yeah,
just kind of got the hands-on stuff.
yeah. And what'd you do at that internship?
It was pretty much we got dropped off in the deep end, but I mean that was a great experience because you learned HTML and CSS in the industry, some JavaScript, Photoshop, basically all that beginner's intro
Nice.
technologies that we were probably going to touch in class, but you get to deal with some real life situations.
So you were dealing with clients, yeah? I mean, you were building websites for clients, and I'm just trying to guess. How many websites do you think you worked on that semester?
That semester, I'd say a dozen or so, because it was the company was had this product called Do It For Me websites, and they would pay whatever the price was. They would be assigned a developer, and we would take some pre-built templates and customize them for them.
Yeah,
Um, Teach the client how to update them,
nice,
upload images, whatever else,
nice,
and
nice.
so yeah, we learned how to talk to all kinds of clients from. I remember I had one client who designed designer grocery bags, and then I think I also worked with, like trucking companies and stuff like that.
Designer
So
grocery bags. Never heard of that.
yeah,
That's cool.
grocery. I
That's
mean,
cool.
yeah,
So
fancy
so you
bags.
graduated 2008, and give me a high level of overview. So, I mean, this is 14 years later. You've been in the industry for 14 years. What have you been doing?
I've been all over a little bit. I've primarily worked in what you would consider agency setups, like basically like you'll see like startups in movies and stuff. Like you're working kind of high pace, building websites for clients. I mean, primarily I work in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, PHP, and WordPress. Um,
So you would consider yourself a full stack developer?
yeah, full stack with a emphasis on front end.
Okay.
Um, and then I've worked like working with clients. You'll touch a handful of other things like Drupal and even some Squarespace and Wix and stuff, depending on what the client asks or what the client needs.
So while you were in school, maybe you worked on a dozen websites or so, and then now you've been in the industry for 14 years. Give me a rough guess, just take a total guess. How many websites have you worked on in 14 years?
I'd say it's probably close to 100. It's got to be right around there. I mean,
100?
there's
Nice.
some of my positions like I was just maintaining a handful of like when I was at SSM Healthcare, you were maintaining a handful of their hospital websites, so there was not really any new websites being built, but there was a lot of redesigns and stuff like that.
So what do you think the most popular used website that you've ever worked on has been?
I'd say like the biggest name ever. I worked on Justin Timberlake's Tequila website.
Hey.
Um, I don't know if I don't think it's still around anymore. It's called 801 Tequila. I'm sure they've rebranded a few times because I built that in 2010 or 11 or whenever that was.
That's cool. That's cool. And just out of curiosity, you got any other big sites that you can rattle off?
Um, I don't know what they look like right now, but I've worked on every SSM healthcare website. Other than that, just like mid-range clients, like you'll see a billboard here and there, like, oh yeah, I worked on that website. Then you don't really realize how big they are
Nice.
until later on.
Yeah, so a couple big names and a lot of medium-sized names. That's cool.
Mhm.
So where are you working now?
Currently, I'm at a company called Atomic Dust in Midtown St. Louis, like pretty close to where Pappy's Barbecue is.
Okay. How many people work at Atomic? It's Atomic Dust.
Yes.
How many employees work at Atomic Dust roughly?
I think we're at 20 now. We've been growing a little bit. Got some new clients, so yeah, I think we're at 20 if I'm not mistaken.
Nice, nice. And you told me before this is actually your office view. Are
hmm
you full-time office? Are you hybrid? What do you got going on there?
I'm kind of hybrid myself. Like I said, pretty much you can come in whenever you want. You can stay at home. There's no real thing unless like there's a client meeting or something that the client wants to have in person. But yeah, I come to the office 2 to 3 days a week. I usually go to the gym before and then come straight to the office because I work out in St. Louis.
Nice, nice. So let's see. Let me. You graduated in 2008. So you work at Atomic Dust, and what's your job title there?
I think my job title is senior web developer.
Senior web developer.
Yep.
Nice. And you mentioned HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I mean, do you do any of those like newer, like the Angulars or the Node or any of that kind of stuff, or just vanilla JavaScript?
It's a lot of vanilla JavaScript and jQuery. I know we're moving, so I think jQuery is slowly getting phased out. So I think
Yeah.
we're going more vanilla JavaScript.
Okay.
Maybe going to dive into some React. Kind of depends on client need. But other than that,
Did you
I do
say
a
you
decent
have done
amount
some React?
I haven't yet, but I mean I've looked at some tutorials, but nothing real world stuff.
Got it. Cool. Cool. So what's it like for you on a day-to-day basis for work? You said you wake up, you work out, then you come to work, and then what?
Pretty much check your email. You'll see if anything came through in the night from clients. So clients will request changes to websites through our project manager, and she'll kind of triage the different tasks to our team of 4 developers. And so I'll see what's due that day. If I need to follow up with her to like get anything more from the client, or I just kind of dive in and make the changes. And while that's going on, there's also longer term projects that I have, like a full new site build. So I'll be working with a full site build while doing these smaller tasks for day-to-day clients.
Okay, so it seems like you've got the longer term projects running and the shorter term stuff on the day-to-day.
Yes, yep, pretty
Nice.
much.
Nice. And so in an 8-hour workday, probably on average 8 hours, how many hours are you writing code?
I'd say it's 6 to 7, really. I mean, the developers kind of keep their meeting time to a minimum unless there's a lot of back and forth with clients, but average, I'd say 6 hours a day I'm coding or kind of researching code or whatever you need to do.
Yeah, do you deal a lot with Bootstrap?
Yeah, that's pretty much the CSS framework we use. I think we're still on Bootstrap 4 is it on migrate to 5 now?
Yeah, we taught 5 for the first time this last semester. Yeah, I think it was over the summer.
You're right.
It
So yeah,
migrated,
we have a WordPress theme built on Bootstrap that's kind of bare bones, and then we'll customize that for the client to kind of speed up development time.
Yeah.
And I know we're gonna have to like upgrade our theme to Bootstrap 5 sometime in the next coming months.
So you do use like pre-built themes a little bit to speed up the process.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's basically just using CSS variables and Sass variables.
Uh-huh.
Like we'll swap out colors and stuff, and then everything else is custom, all the PHP and everything behind the scenes.
Nice. Nice. So I guess you're at Atomic Dust, right? So have you been there for a long time? In other words, have you kind of gone company to company, or have you been with the same company for a long time? What's your experience been like out there?
I've been with Atomic Dust since pretty much COVID started, honestly. I started here the week that St. Louis kind of shut down everything, so I got my laptop and started working from home then. But I've been at various agencies around St. Louis. I worked at HLK, Brighton Agency, Integrity, CIO services, which I don't think is around anymore. And then a couple more corporate clients in between, like SSM Healthcare and Answers.com, which was a pretty popular website.
Yeah.
That's still going pretty strong. And
So what would be this like the strategic advantage to changing employers versus staying with one employer for your whole career?
I definitely say the number one thing is to, regardless of employers, is you have to stay updated on your skills, especially if you're a front end developer, because it changes rapidly. But you kind of have to recognize from an employer when there's no work coming in, honestly, or if like there's an opportunity you can't pass up. But some of the biggest advice I can say about St. Louis is the ecosystem is small, so you have to be respectful of all your employers, because currently I'm working with 2 people I worked with 5 jobs ago. So you'll eventually come across everyone you worked with before.
So it's a big city, but the ecosystem is small, so you never burn bridges.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And to your point of regardless of whether you stay with the same employer or you job switch, you got to keep your skills up to date.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, there's a few companies where you get kind of stagnant because you're working on the same stuff day to day and you can't really push newer technologies.
Yeah.
So, like, you may fall behind in that, but I'd always advise working on stuff outside of work, like sharpening your skills, building yourself a new portfolio site with new technologies. But yeah, you just got to stay on top of it.
Yeah, so you maintain a personal portfolio?
Correct. Yeah, I have my WordPress portfolio with, it's nothing too fancy, but I just list all the websites that I think future employers would like.
Yeah, so you demo a handful of projects.
Definitely.
Is it LandonZirkelbach.com?
Correct. Yep.
So we'll plug it, and let's pull it up. Landon Zirkelbach.com. Yeah, so literally it's just a portfolio of sites you've worked on.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, there's a little company called Marriott Hotels, Delta Hotels. Yeah, pet
got
foods.
a client.
Yeah. So it's literally just demonstration of your work. Very cool. Very cool. You've been in the industry long enough. Have you been part of hiring before? Like, have you hired new developers?
Definitely. I know, especially when I was at Brighton Agency, we had a small development team. So the 2 developers, I'd be asking the front end questions, and our back end developer would be asking more back end questions, and then I'd be kind of finding out their working style.
Yeah. So what tips would you give to people coming out of school, to interview well and land their first job?
You definitely just have to be eager to learn. I know I've started a handful of jobs where I didn't know the technologies 100%, but you have to be willing to learn them, because the company is not going to change for you right away. So you have to learn those technologies and then build your skill set moving forward. And pretty much you just have to be open to new ideas and stuff, and because each company is going to have in place working methods. Like previous companies I've worked at use Scrum Agile methods, where you get tickets and it's all predetermined at the beginning of the week. Where here at Atomic Dust, it's more waterfall, where you get that big project and you work with it from start to finish, and then various tasks will pop up and you have to work on those based on client need.
So be flexible in how you work, kind of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so that's tips to get your foot in the door. What about, what tips once you're on the job? Is it's kind of the same thing where, just keep learning and being flexible and but I guess I'll ask that question. So, once you're on the job, what can you do for continued success?
Definitely just the big thing is timelines. That's huge in development, because the clients expect something. If you don't deliver, then it looks bad on you and the company. But you just got to be willing to work with all kinds of different people within your company, from project managers to designers and copywriters and stuff within your team. And then you'll have to talk to CEOs of companies and have to learn how to word your responses, not to mess up a client relationship because they may not understand how development works or how a specific tool works. So the big thing is learning how to express the tools you use to outside to clients, to someone who doesn't know coding.
So personal soft skills.
Definitely, yeah.
And developers have a language of their own. And you can't really use the language of developers with CEOs and managers because they don't speak development. They speak
Right.
they speak their business.
Definitely.
So you have to know how to communicate well with various industries.
Definitely, yeah. You want to be able to translate what you do to how it helps their company, because the company wants to make money, or they may have a specific goal. So yeah, you want to try to sell yourself to them in a way.
That's great advice. That's awesome. What guidance would you give? A lot of times people, they get into the industry and, salary is a big reason why people are here, so what expectations should you have with so many years experience in St. Louis about the St. Louis market and salary expectations?
Definitely, I know. If you look on a lot of websites, you'll see a lot of salaries for San Francisco, California, New York, and stuff. It's definitely going to be a lot smaller in St. Louis because it's cheaper to live here.
Yeah.
But the big thing is you want to get the experience first, and so you want to get that entry level job, and you want to get the experience first, and then from there, depending on if you think you can grow within that company, then definitely try to seek promotions or whatever, or ask what you can do to expand your skills to be more valuable to the company.
It's a great answer.
And if you do move on, the great thing is just networking. Like we said, don't ever burn any bridges. I've moved several jobs because I know someone that I've worked with before, whether they're a designer or a project manager or something, they put in a good word for me, and just because that's more of a verification than like a coding interview, because they know that you can do the job.
Yeah, so if you're chasing salary, the way that you're going to get those numbers that you're really after is by getting the experience.
Definitely.
And so getting your foot in the door, getting real world experience, getting that knowledge and that skill set. More or less, being desperate for your first job is kind of what I say. You want to be desperate for your first job.
Definitely. I know whenever I was at Ranken, we were super lucky to get that internship. I believe it was at Network Solutions.
Yeah.
And we were lucky because I know pretty soon after we started that job, then that's kind of when the housing market crashed.
Uh-huh.
So I had so many friends in college that couldn't get jobs then. So we were lucky to have that job and then get your skills in while other people couldn't get their foot in the door anywhere else.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. And, I like to use the term desperate, because you think about relationships. They always say you don't want to be desperate. Don't be desperate in relationships. Don't be. But I think it's appropriate to be desperate for your first job.
Definitely. I think
get the experience in any way that you can. And sorry to interrupt, you pay to go to school for an education. So even if you can do an unpaid internship, that is a step in the right direction, because you're not paying to learn. You're at least breaking even.
Right,
Wasn't Network
definitely,
Solutions unpaid? Or was it paid?
Mine was paid. I know working with future interns, some of those weren't paid.
Okay.
But a good amount of them turned into full-time employees. So
Yeah.
the best thing about an internship is you learn the company's systems and everything. So it's basically like on-the-job training, and you turn into a full-time employee if you nail it.
Awesome. So I guess to kind of wrap up here, where are you going? Like we talked about your past, what's coming around the corner for you? Where are you going?
I'm definitely happy here at Atomic Dust. It's great culture. We just got back from Mexico on a company trip, so
Nice.
we're down
What
there.
part of Mexico?
We were south of Cancun at Playa del Carmen area over there on the Gulf Coast.
Cool.
So we had a company trip down there. There was no company team building stuff. You kind of just went and had some fun with your coworkers.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, we got back a couple days ago.
Heck yeah. So you see yourself in the industry for another 10 years? Are you a lifer, or what do you think?
Definitely, I'd say I'm a lifer. The coding's my favorite thing. Kind of mentoring new people that come through. I've been working with our new developer here who converted from an intern to a full-time employee. So teaching him the ropes, teaching him technologies and stuff, because he kind of came from a different area of development, and he's trying to move into agency life where I'm at, and so teaching him the ropes.
Cool, man. Well, if you ever need entry-level talent too, I know a guy that can get you some
Sounds good.
entry-level talent. Well, cool. So opening up to my class, you guys, this is Landon. You got any questions for Landon? We've been doing these alumni interviews, and what I'm noticing is, I think they're getting the swing of it. In other words, I think they're really getting a good picture of what's going on in the industry. And I think because of that, because we've been doing a handful of these, they're like, well, I think they're starting to get it, so that there's been less questions. But that's okay. Yeah, we got one. We got two.
So you're at work right now, right? Like you're not actually at home?
The question is, where are you physically located right now? Is it work or home?
Yes, I'm currently in the office right now.
Okay. So I think he's like the first one that's actually been in the office. So,
Just about, yeah.
Out of all of our interviews.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, when looking for a job, would you try to get something at home, or do you like, being able to go into the office and say hi to your coworkers?
Cool. Good question. So especially for new talent, I'm gonna ask in case you couldn't hear. You got new developers. Should you seek something out that's remote, or see something out that's hybrid, or full in office? What would you recommend?
I definitely try to see whatever you feel motivated to do, because before I was at Atomic Dust, I was doing a contract job for a company out of North Carolina, and so it was 100% remote, and I didn't feel as productive doing that, and then I started here at Atomic Dust, and I was happy to get back in the office and see people and interact on a day-to-day basis. And then COVID hit, and obviously we were remote for however long, and now I kind of come to the office just to get out of the house and see people and kind of just get back to that normal work life. But I know tons of developers that love working from home, so if you think that you can do that and be motivated, do that. But I like the going in the office and working idea myself.
I think that's a good answer, because everyone's a little bit different. I do want to point out that I'm on your website, and I see that there's a web developer /intern that maybe some people could check out for our current students. So maybe you see some Ranken resumes coming your way. That'd be
Sounds good.
That'd be awesome. Good question. Josh, did you have one?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of going off of that point, with like the work from home versus work at work, what made you want to choose to come into work rather than work from home? Like, do you think it's, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, just change up the pace, and I just like going to the office more. I can concentrate more. I don't, because like I'll be working from home and I'll think, oh, I can do this around my house instead of work. So it's more of a keep your head in the game, because with coding, if you get kind of taken out of the loop, like someone interrupts you while you're coding, it takes you a bit to get back into what you're doing. So
kind of like a zone or a flow kind of thing.
Definitely, yeah. So I can just throw on my headphones in the office and just work on what's needed.
Awesome. Yes.
Since you have your own website where you kind of have your resume of people you've worked for or done work for, do you ever have like apps that you include on there of like something that you did in your spare time, like, oh, here's an app that I built also?
There's never really been anything in the app world I've worked on too much. I mean, there's been some internal apps that I've worked on, but they're not public facing, so unfortunately I can't show those off. But I'm trying to look at my website. I don't think I have any of I'll do some freelance work occasionally, like freelance websites, and I'll include those. But yeah, so I'll work with designers I've met in the past and kind of do stuff on the side. But I'll include those on the website occasionally.
Cool. Cool. Well, hey, Landon, I'm going to say thank you so much. Congrats on, a long, successful career.
Thank you.
I think all of my current students would love to be in your shoes someday with a lot of experience under their belt. And, presumably, you're in an industry that you're not going to have to, work too hard to find work.
Definitely.
With that much experience and that much under your belt. So congrats on that.
Thank you. And if anyone has any follow-up questions they didn't think of now, they can contact me on LinkedIn if they want.
Cool. You're the man. Congrats, and thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
All right, talk to you later.
Yep, see ya.
All right, bye.